Okay, so in the first part of this lecture, Joanna explored like the causes that are behind conflicts and the universal laws that are applicable. And if we are aware of these universal laws, then we understand better what is going on. And if we stay connected with especially the unity in life, well, we will live in harmony, and conflicts will not easy appear. But in this part of the lecture, articles 4, 5, and 6, I will zoom in on things that happen when a conflict arises. And when you study on the articles 4, 5, and 6, you see that these are really interconnected with each other. So I will try in this part of the lecture give a more like a synthesis or like an overview how you can read, what you can use in reading those 3 articles. And if we see that at certain point, like what I told before, step on the snow is put, or like one certain conflict arises, we see that from the inner to the outer, on a kind of strange way, or like what is devoid of any maturity, conflicts or war comes out, and there is also many support for war. If you look to the situation between Russia and Ukraine at this moment, you hardly see any people in the world at this moment that are trying to stop the war. Maybe the Pope once said a month ago to stop, but that many people are, to my opinion, putting more pressure on the problem right now. So let us look into the reason why this is happening, and also, of course, how we can work to prevent it. I think on the screen is now the 3 types of thinking. Yes, to step into it a little bit deeper, you can say that we as a humanity in this moment have 3 types of thinking active in ourselves, that the average person has. But to be fair, these types of thinking are not equally active in each person. So this is like different shares of active thinking. And in the first is like the thoughts of desire. And in practice, these are neutral forces. They can be driven by personal or external factors. Want to have possession or power or status. But on the more inner aspects, you can also desire truth or wisdom, harmony or compassion. And then the second aspect of thinking is the intellectual thinking. It's more rational or logical reasoning. Can also be very abstract, very technical, but more important, I think, is that it also can be used to finding solutions for complex problems. So when we then look to the next thinking type, it's thinking based on wisdom, and that assumes the unity. So you do not strive in this thinking to unity, because then you're still separated, but you assume this the point of departure in your thinking is unity and interconnectedness, and that is characterized by insight, wisdom, and understanding. And you can say that this wisdom thinking is also the thinking quality of the peacemaker. And the point is that we as human beings are still learning thinkers. So this means we are in a development of to develop our quality of thinking. And on that point, I want to zoom in especially. You can say that this desired thinking, if we are focused on it too much, we become separated, and we become obsessed to gain more and more and more for ourselves. But we forget that we live in a world where we are interconnected with things and other people and other beings. But this this thinking which we are developing right now, the thinking based on wisdom, is for most of us very small. We are very young thinkers in the wisdom. So if we want to develop it, we have to focus on it, and especially during times of conflict, it's very important to stay connected on this part of thinking. If we then see that in a conflict situation, the way of thinking is very much gives very much polarity in this moment. There is often a very easy script that the people who want to go into a conflict, they put you, they tell you that the problem that there is arisen is about yourself. The problem is due to other parties, and that the logical solution to solve it is to go into war, to go in a conflict. And you see there, you're not responsible. That's what you're being told. And you are separated from the other party, and the other party is marginalized to like a group that you can fight against. So there are basically three very easy to handle tools that we can use to avoid to step into this trap. And we can also we can use it for ourselves, but we can also use it to help other people in their thinking to get to their more wisdom part. And the first is awareness of the own responsibility, and the second is the awareness of the unity, and the third part is the awareness of truth in oneself. And when you go into the part of being responsible, you always, and that is what Joanna just told also, thinking on unity is not enough. It's very important to be active, to check in yourself on which part you are responsible. And even if you see a war somewhere else, you can say it's on the other side of the world, but on the inner part of this world, there is no distance. So if you have conflicts in your thinking, you are distracted, or you are frustrated, or you don't solve the problems in your own life, you are at any way contributing to this problem. So if you take responsibility, and you want to be a peacemaker, you can be a peacemaker just in your own house or just in your own mind, to solve, to think what is wise to do in this moment. And then you lower down the whole pressure of this planet. You are like every thought and every action matters in this case. And then you automatically become more aware of the unity, and you become connected with the truth in yourself. So I just pointed out a few tools that you used, in fact, on a more analytical level. You can check if a solution is contributing to the unity, if you are non-violent in your thinking. And then on a deeper level, more connected to the wisdom part in us, we have a conscience. And this conscience is very interesting tool in this, because it's a storehouse of all the ethical lessons we have learned in the past. And that means that there is something in us that already knows in what kind of decisions or directions you want to move, if it is wise or not. And you can say that having learned lessons in past lives, you can imagine that we have done things right, that worked out right for the harmony as a whole. We made mistakes that didn't work out, and sometimes there are things in our lives now that we didn't have lessons on. So this translates to our conscience in the following way. When we want to go in a certain direction, and we learned already from it in a positive way, the conscience will encourage us to go in that direction. And if it doesn't work out in the right way according to our conscience, it will try, it will give us a signal that it might not be such a good idea. And if we didn't have lessons at all, it's silent. So then we have to go again to the checkpoints: awareness of unity, awareness of our own responsibility, and awareness of truth in oneself. Can we find more? Can we use like other insights? Maybe we have to consult other people and have a conversation about it. And then the next level, when you are connected with the whole and you want to help people, well, automatically in some kind of way the idea of non-violence comes up, and we just spoke about it. Aggressive protest, aggressive actions, they will always work out in a negative way. Fight creates more fight. So when we try to be non-violent, we start to exchange ideas, and even better, we try to prevent problems. But when problems arise, we try to incorporate like the other party, because on a spiritual level we know that we are connected with them. We cannot be separated from them, and we try to solve the problems in a non-violent way. And then we can see two different things, because we can try to solve a problem on a non-violent way, but if we didn't change the thinking mentality that was underlying the problem, it's the same like a protest, and you don't go for a positive spiritual vision, the problem comes back. If you manage to solve something in a non-violent way, but you didn't change the underlying mental atmosphere, also the problem will come back. So also with non-violence, from a theosophical standpoint, it's very important that we also put effort in changing the underlying mentality, to help people change ideas, to help people change their way of thinking, and also change the standpoints of how to behave to each other. So then I think we come to the last section of this lecture. Then we go to the part of truly helping. And helping, being connected with our wisdom part, is some of the most logical things to do. It's also the most natural things to do. And you see it also on television. When something happens, from all kinds of perspectives and all kinds of groups, help comes to support people. Like in a war situation, like food and medical support and housing is given, and also other things are given. But and often, of course, and I hope more and more from like a compassion point of view, and not to stimulate the conflict. This is very important. And in another level, like truly helping, is also helping people to change their mentality, helping to gain more insight, gain more wisdom. And then we have 3 levels of help that we can offer. And that's what I want to zoom in on. Is giving inspiration. And while we give inspiration, we try to develop and grow the people in their inner wisdom. So it's like an evolvement. And if we try, I go back a little bit, I lost a little bit of my line. If first, in truly helping, we try to develop, to help people develop in their wisdom. And there are 3 tasks of helping, that is truly helping, is giving inspiration, giving protection, and giving healing. And these 3, they are on an essential level, have the same characteristic, but more in the details they are different. And let us see what is different about them. So the first task is inspiration, and inspiration flows from a relatively higher developed being to a lower developed being who is open to receive. And it's very important to see that these 3 types of helping are also the help that is given by the hierarchy of wisdom and compassion. It's in fact the way that sages, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas help humanity. So when we inspire people, we try to pass on the stream of information, the inspiration. In other words, we try to activate the wisdom thinking in people. And the best situation, the best moment to do this is in fact when we are not entangled in a conflict, when we are kind of pretty relaxed to grow. And the second part of truly helping is protecting people. And protecting people is the thing we start to do when conflicts arise. Then there is tension in the three levels of their thinking, on the more inspiration part, on the analytical part, and on the thinking where they are attached to things, and they are drawn to the lower regions of their thinking. So what we try to do there is to help people to stay connected with their inner wisdom, to stay connected with their conscience, to stay connected with their inner vision and their spiritual will. So one thing we can do there is to learn people the difference between these two different voices in themselves. The lower nature, which is complaining and which is insecure and which is divided, and also can be very emotional, and then the difference between this lower nature and their higher nature, where there is more silent and more contemplative thinking, but also where is the wisdom and how the conscience can be consulted. So if they learn the difference between those two voices, they can choose, and they have like an inner protection wall. And the third and last part of this truly helping is the healing. And we start to heal when the connection of the lower self and the higher self are not there anymore, so they are disconnected. And then we have to help people to disconnect again with their inner wisdom parts. So things we can do there is to first try to calm down the people and how they can relate to a problem, and then again to reconnect with the inner wisdom again. So if we look then to the last part of this section, very important part in giving inspiration, in helping people, is having made all the help you give active in your own life. You become a living example of the wisdom that you work with on other people, so that you are a living example, and that the wisdom you share with people also resonates within yourself. So for other people, it's then more easy to start to resonate with their own wisdom part. And another last part, which I want to share in this part of the lecture, is that that we see that that when we help, we have an immortal trust in man, and that we have this trust because we know that in each man not only the outer or personal part is active, but also has a learning and spiritual part. And we, in essence, this person is these higher parts. So we can say that each man is on its way to become a Buddha, and that it is this Buddha or wisdom part that we have to search for and try to help this person to connect with this wisdom part in him. I think these are the most important things I want to share for this this part of the lecture. We go now to the break of 3 minutes, and then we are waiting for your questions. Yeah.
Ja, beginnen we?
Are there questions, Helena?
Okay. Yes, we've received a few. One is about the refugee flow. We see this refugee flow, and there are systems that kind of block these refugees and to help them to flee. How can we solve this? So we see those systems that are leading. How can we solve these problems with these systems and change it so that we can really help those refugees?
Okay.
Yeah.
Ga je gang.
Is I think you can answer this question on two levels. I think when we go to the deeper level, I think if we want to get to solve the refugee flow on a structural level, we have to take care of all the differences in the world. Refugees are not coming to us because they want to leave, but they leave because there are problems in these countries that are underlying like an economical and social system in the world. When you see that the money flows and the thought flows in the world and the material flows, you see that in a kind of way all these refugees they follow these flows, and if we share fair in the world all the material more and the money, and we build a spiritual vision on how we want to work in this world, we wouldn't have all these refugees coming all over the world. And when we live in this feeling of separateness, if we are living in this feeling of separateness, we want to stop them. But they would not simply not come if we would be sharing all the materials and the money and the possibilities fair over this world. This is what I think is a very important point in this.
Yeah, actually, it's really basic, but it starts with the oneness of life.
Yeah.
If you don't act like it, and you take more for yourself, then it's like high and low pressures. Then, of course, there's less on another area, and we tend to look at a problem at the moment. But we always have to keep in mind there's always cause and effect. So it's never, and I will talk a little bit later about this, that you can't solve a problem in the moment of what is happening, but you have to go to the real cause, what happened, why the situation is the way it is, and then you can work at the cause of things with this, in the end, of course, the oneness. Yeah.
Can I add something to my two colleagues? Yes? The moment you see the planet as a living organism, everyone knows that in a living organism everything flows. And when the wind blows, we say, oh, that's natural, the wind blows. But humanity blows over the globe as well. And that means that war or no war, people, civilizations will always move. And the idea that boundaries of countries are always the same, that is not realistic. Everything is moving, and that is the way to keep humanity healthy. For you must move to make contact with each other. And making contact with each other means growing. Otherwise you don't grow, you just crystallize. And that is not healthy, that is not natural. So it will always flow. But refugees flow because there is a problem. And every time that people are in problem, you have to help them. The moment you recognize the problem, that makes you also responsible for the solution. When you do not see anything in life, then you cannot be responsible. But the moment you see that people flee and come here in distress, we have to help them. That is not, we have to pamper them. We have to help them to remain independent people. And that is important. It is part of the growth of civilizations of this planet, the movement. And one very nice movement there is, that is the fact that now we are living in a part of the world and we die and we reincarnate there where our civilization flows. So it can be that in Western Europe, most of the people living there were part of the Roman Empire 2000 years ago. And that people in America being born there were part of the Egyptian civilization. So even when you sit your whole life still, between two incarnations, you move. And that makes us free from a place. That liberates you from the idea that you have to sit here and they have to sit there. So at that point, when you see that, refugees are not such a threat anymore. So I hope I took away the fear for refugees. So
we've received quite a few more. Next one is practicing the fourth paramita is essential. Would you agree? The fourth paramita.
And the childish answer is yes. But perhaps you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I would say, of course, is practicing the fourth paramita workful, but I would consider also practicing the other ones.
Yeah, for sure.
These are interconnected with each other. And, well, if we had the fourth paramita is like the indifference for pleasure and pain, but we also have to be patient. Be patient in the situations, also that can take a while before solutions come. And then we have to be patient, also to be analytic, to search for a problem. Mm-hmm. One thing I read preparing and writing these articles was that the salt marches of Gandhi. We read of them and like there was suddenly this idea. But Gandhi was like contemplating and meditating and considering for 6 weeks if what would be the best solution for this problem. So being patient in this perspective is also very important. And of course, all the other paramitas. I cannot say one is better than the other. And
I would just say if we would only master the first one, the love immortal for all that lives, then it would be peace all over the world already. Yeah, so they are all important, but I would be really happy with the first one if we manage to live that really. Yeah.
Can I add one thing to our friends on the other side of the camera? I hope you all know what a paramita is. Yes, perhaps not everyone knows what a paramita is. A paramita is a virtue in Buddhism, and it means that it is one of the 7 ways how to ennoble your character. And that is important, that you understand in non-Sanskrit terms that you are able to lift your character from the instinctive way of living into the wisdom, the Buddhic way of living. And that is exactly what happens in the later 4 lessons of our course, Thinking Differently. There you learn how to elevate your character. And that is what the paramitas do. But the virtues are in all religions, in all philosophy, also Plato. Only the terms are different, but the laws are the same. So, caused thinking differently, paramitas, ennobling your character.
Next question. Is it true that the best way of helping people is to give them the route to become a helper themselves? So becoming innerly independent?
Here, I have like a very nice example for this. I was helping a man who had a very severe depression, and he was going to a mental hospital for 4 mornings a week, and he was doing that already for 6 months. And I was asking him, what does it help? And he said, well, not much, but it's my therapy. And I asked him, well, what would be the best thing to do in this situation? He said, I don't know. I'm coming for you for help. And I didn't know as well, so we were discussing about it. And at some point, he came up with the idea himself that he would resign from this therapy. And what he would do, he would ask the organization if he could go in this mental hospital again, but then to organize all kinds of activities for the depressed people. So we started to do it. 2 weeks later, he came back to me, and then he told me that suddenly his depression was gone. So I think encouraging people to help other people is the best way to overcome problems. Yes. You want to add?
No, I totally agree.
Okay, next question. Isn't it important in protest that you not only say what you are against, but what you also are in favor of? That is, that you offer an alternative. Would you agree on this?
I think that was exactly our conclusion in the first round of questions. That being against leaves a void. You don't have the alternative for what you want. I don't know if we mentioned it, but there's this difference between evolution and revolution. And a revolution, by being against and getting rid of the establishment, that is not a solution, because then you have this void. But you have to have this alternative in mind, the positive ideal, how you want a harmonious society.
Yeah. That is the only form of criticism in the form of a better idea. Yes.
Okay, one more. In one of the first articles, you wrote about the 3 different mentalities. Can you tell us about these mentalities? I think they are most useful to recognize them in ourselves and in our fellow men.
That is part of the second article. And I love it that the questioner already read the article. Hooray! Yes, 3 mentalities you can find in the history of humanity. All the sacred books tell us that 18 million years ago, humanity started to think by themselves and not only to think half asleep. And from that moment on, you find it in the Bible, you find it in the Upanishads. From that moment on, humanity started to think independently more and more. Every incarnation, it was a little bit better up to now. But that whole process of 18 million years had stages. The, let us say, baby stage, the child stage, the teenager stage, the adolescent stage, and the adult thinking qualities. And what you see in the world is that some people, from that illusion of separateness, cling to their old habits of thinking, to think with instinct as a basis. And when you see your cats and dogs, when they are threatened, what you see them doing, that is what you in the outer world politics see very often. That first ignore and then strike back. And Bouke will, after this session of questions, explain more in how to do that. So the more primitive thinking is based on instinct and two parties and wars and conflict. The middle part is where we are now, and that is that by thinking and not our instinctive feelings, we are able to talk to each other, exactly like we do tonight. And in this way, we can teach each other, for we all learn from each other. We learn from the questioners. And in that way, we can find a balance, a new step to overcome that instinct of conflict. And our future mentality is the mentality that we are so, how must I say that? That our conscience and our intuitions are so spiritually rich that conflicts will not be born, because we can protect the whole atmosphere against those instincts. We are able to learn that within ourselves and try it within you. And then you see the moment you have no fear anymore, then you suddenly can be a peacemaker in whatever situation, inner and outer. And that is what this peace issue wants to show you, that from those three mentalities, that you are able to grow from the middle part, exchanging ideas, to our future way of thinking, to put oneness and spirituality central. We can do that. Now, and again, I have to ask your attention for our course, Thinking Differently, and especially the second course, Life Wisdom, because there we try to show you the way how to discover that. So, that question was too long, people. Yes, but you want to add something? No? Okay.
All right. So we have two more questions. Iljitsj talked about conscience. How can we bring another person back to his conscience? Or how can we learn someone about conscience?
Yeah. It's a good question. What I think every situation is different. So first we have to see who is in front of us and what is the problem that is in this person. So if there is a problem and the person is disconnected from his conscience, you see often that the person gives justifications to his solutions. It is always the personality who tries to justify himself. So if there is a conflict, he justifies what he is doing to hide that he is insecure, or he is afraid, or he is angry. He justifies all the actions. So a thing you can do, for example, when a person is in a conflict and he wants to do certain things, yes, let us keep it away from war, but if for in fact that he is in a divorcement, what's kind of the same as a war going on. He wants to divorce, and he wants to fight it out in court, and he has lawyers, and he wants to achieve all things. You can ask him, for example, okay, you are up to this right now, you want to do all these things and you justified for you. But what would you think, or what would be going on in you when all this is finished? You meet a new person, you fall in love, yes, and this person is entangled in the same situation as you and your wife are in this moment. And then you can get this person out of his patterns and let him reflect on a situation where he can connect to his conscience. And this is, I think, an example of how you can connect a person back to his conscience again. So, if there are additions to this?
Elements I will speak about in a few minutes. Yeah.
Yes. My last hint.
Yeah.
Last year we had 4 lectures about conscience. And if you want to know more, you have 4 whole hours to see what Theosophy has to offer you in this important question. How do you find your own conscience? First of all, is recognizing that you have a conscience, that there is a conscience. And to do that is recognizing that you have lived more than once. For then you can recognize that you built up wisdom already. You are not just a starter in life. You have lived so many lives and you have built up so much wisdom. And it is a pity that no one in normal life helps you seeing your own abilities and your own sources you have. And therefore, 4 lectures to learn more about yourself. For you are your conscience.
One last question. Many carry traumatic experiences with them. How can we cope with this? And how can we help them?
I look at a pro.
After a war situation.
For example, oppression, war, whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I start maybe?
Yeah.
It's really important to make the difference again here between the different levels within ourselves. So the question is, who's having this trauma? And that is really real, and it is there, of course, but we have to realize that there's a part of us, within us, that doesn't experience this trauma. And it is a matter of going within. It just reminds me, I saw a therapy that worked really well, that people were enabled to see themselves from another perspective. They had the room, so to say, to take a breath and to step out of this fear and to have a look at their own personality that was having this trauma, so they could give it a place. Hey, it's happening, it's real, but it's not really me. And at the moment you can create this distance and you can realize that there happened something really bad, but it is not you that happened, who overcome it, so to say, that helps a lot. Mm-hmm.
That was the last one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then we continue with the last part, the last 3 lectures. And in this part we will take a look at what is needed.
you.